The Total Screen proudly presents their official podcast, On Screen, with your hosts, Tyson Gifford and William Roerig. Hello, everybody, and welcome to On Screen, the official podcast of the Total Screen. My name is Tyson.
My name is Will.
And today we are going to be diving headfirst into a big Nintendo Direct. That is our main story. We also have an On the Horizon section. We're going to go over what's coming up in the next week or so, and some news unrelated to the big Nintendo Direct. But the Nintendo Direct is our main topic. It's our big juicy morsel we're going to be chewing on, and we're going to be getting to that. But let's start things off with our On the Horizon segments.
On the horizon. On the horizon.
On the Horizon is where we talk about stuff coming up in the next week or so, and we're going to kick things off with Orphan Black Echoes, which is coming on Sunday, June 23rd to AMC, BBC America, and AMC+. Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble is coming on Tuesday, June 25th to the Nintendo Switch. The Bear is coming on Thursday, June 27th to Hulu. Suicide Squad ISEKAI is coming on Thursday, June 27th to Hulu. Supacell, which is kind of a urban British version of Heroes, is coming on Thursday, June 27th to Netflix. That 90s show is returning for its third season on June 27th on Netflix. And Luigi's Mansion 2 HD is dropping on Thursday, June 27th on the Nintendo Switch. Lastly, WondLa, however it's pronounced, WondLa, is coming on Friday, June 28th to Apple TV+. This is an animated fantasy with Terry Hatcher, Brad Garrett, and Alan Tudyk. But that is our On the Horizon segment. Let's dive into our next section, On Beat. On Beat is our news segment. Our first news story is that House of the Dragon has been renewed for a third season ahead of its season 2 premiere. Its season 2 has premiered now, but it was renewed before it premiered. I think that that's an important detail of the story that needs to be understood. That it wasn't like, wow, season 2 did really well in its premiere, so we have to renew it now. It was like,
no, they're just so confident they preemptively renewed it for a third season.
Yeah. As you had mentioned before to me, this means, of course, that there's no faith in the Game of Thrones franchise. It's dead, right?
Right, absolutely.
Season 8 absolutely killed it, which is also why A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms has begun filming.
Yep.
Which is going to be fun because it's got a bit of a different tone, a little bit less politicking, I think.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, but another one in the Game of Thrones franchise. Our next news story is that Josh Gad, who is the snowman in Frozen, he's also a big Broadway star, is going to co-write and star in a Spaceballs sequel. This is going to be produced by Mel Brooks. It's going to be directed by Josh Greenbaum, who did Strays with Will Ferrell recently, and it's going to be co-written, besides just Josh Gad, but also with Benji Samit and Dan Hernandez, who did Pokemon Detective Pikachu and the recent Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles CG animated movie, Mutant Mayhem, I believe it's called. They're going to write that with Josh Gad.
I'm not going to get into it. I don't have high expectations. I want to be optimistic because I want the spoof genre in film to come back and to come back strong. So I'm hoping they turn in something that's worthy of being called Spaceballs and becomes a classic, but I mean, I have my doubts there, but
it's a tough nut to crack.
Yes, it really is.
We had mentioned before we started with all this that spoof movies were basically destroyed by the reference spoof movie. Movies like Epic Movie is like the perfect example of it, or like the later scary movies, like Scary Movie 4 and ones like that, that really just kind of said, okay, we see that spoofs are popular, so let's just make a movie and it's just going to reference all the stuff that's happening, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's really bad, and it kind of just killed an entire genre that had been flourishing for decades, with great movies like Naked Gun and Robin Hood Men in Tights and Spaceballs that we're mentioning here. We had mentioned, though, before when we were talking about this and about our doubts about a Spaceballs prequel, that there are some shining examples of how spoof can still work. There's still, like, absurdist television and a few absurdist movies here and there that actually do work. And that means that spoof isn't something that can't be done. It's just something that hasn't been done well in a long time.
Exactly.
Like a movie format like this.
Exactly.
But we have had stuff, A Touch of Cloth, done by Charlie Brooker, the same guy who did Black Mirror. He did a series called A Touch of Cloth, a British one. Absolutely hilarious spoof police movie, or series. We talked about Tina Fey. You know, Tina Fey has done, everything she's done is kind of absurdist. 30 Rock is absurdist. Timmy Schmidt is absurdist. She's got that Girls 5 Eva, which she's not even the showrunner for, but she's a producer on, is absurdist and hilarious, you know? There's a lot of that stuff still being made. It's just not to the same scale as it used to be when we would get stuff like Robin Hood Men in Tights, or Spaceballs, or Naked Gun, or what was one of the last good ones?
I have no clue.
We're just not at that same scale. Or like I said, Scary Movie, the first two Scary Movies, you know? We're just not getting stuff at that scale and that quality anymore. And so it'll be really nice to see spoofs be brought back as a genre. But as you said, it's hard to have high hopes. Such a hard bar to clear. Our last news story is that a trailer dropped for the anime movie The Imaginary. This is being done by a studio that spun off from Studio Ghibli. So it's like the founding member of this new studio was a high-up Studio Ghibli staff member who ended up founding the studio. And I haven't seen anything that they've done before. They've only done like 3 movies or something, I think, so far. But this one here, The Imaginary, this dropped the trailer, looks very much like a Studio Ghibli film. It's absolutely jaw-dropping animation, just gorgeous through and through, and like a plot that looks pretty interesting. It's going for something similar to what that movie If that John Krasinski did is doing, but it seems to be going a lot deeper than what If is doing. And I mean, straight to the point of turning reality into like a villain.
Which it looked really cool. Yeah. It looked really interesting.
Yeah, if nothing else, check out the trailer because the animation is absolutely jaw-dropping. It's stunning to see. So check that out, The Imaginary. And that is it for our news segment. And that leaves only our final segment, which is our Nintendo Direct coverage, which is kind of an extension of our news segment because we're just going to be talking about the Nintendo Direct that dropped on June 18th. We're going to be talking about the entire thing. We're going through the entire event, but we're also going to be breezing past some of it because some of it's not really worth talking about. We'll mention it, but we'll move on some of the things. Some of it's really big and important, some of it not so much. We're also going to be talking about the Japanese Direct and some differences that were shown in that. There were a lot of games that weren't shown in the American Direct that were in the Japanese Direct. We're going to be talking about some of that. We're also going to be talking about the predictions we made last week, which, spoiler alert, we didn't do too well on. None of us did too well on those predictions. So we're going to go over those, and we're also just going to talk about some observations that we have made from this Direct, some things that we've learned from this Direct, besides just what games are coming. We're going to start things off by how the Direct started, which is that we got this pastel, watercolor-esque looking Mario and Luigi goofing around, and we got a title, Mario and Luigi, and immediately we're going, okay, so which Mario and Luigi game are they remaking? Is it Superstars, is it Inside Story? Which one are they remaking here? And it turns out, no, this is a brand new game. This is
first
Mario and Luigi
2015.
Yeah. So, yeah, we're bringing back the Mario RPG super franchise that's got like 3 parts to it already.
We got all the flavors on the Switch now.
Yeah, we got a remake of Mario RPG, the one that was done by Square Enix on Super Nintendo. We got a 3D remake of that. We got a HD remaster.
Well, we got 2 Paper Mario games. We got 2 Paper Mario games.
Well, we got a new one as well before that.
We got Origami King like a couple years ago.
Plus, I think we have the N64 Paper Mario on Nintendo Switch Online as well.
Yeah, I don't really count that, but yes.
We're just missing Super Paper Mario when it comes to quality Paper Mario games on Switch.
Yes. Yeah, we got Paper Mario, now we got Mario and Luigi. Well, I mean, this surprises me because the developer behind them, Alpha Alpha Dream shut down in 2019. Like we said, there had been brand new entry in the series since 2015. So I assumed at that point, yeah, it's a dead franchise. I don't see Nintendo doing anything with this, especially with the developer dead and like the last one, which was a remake, not doing any real numbers. But no, like, so this surprised the heck out of me when I saw it. Like, I immediately recognized it as Mario and Luigi from the art style.
Yeah.
There's no mistaking. But yeah, to me, this was a fantastic opening because it just gave me something out of left field that I was not expecting. And
there were no rumors about this. There was nothing, no speculation.
Nobody was saying that this was happening.
This came out of nowhere.
Yeah, exactly. And I know, like, you probably don't have a relationship with the series since it's been, like, handheld exclusive since its inception.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like, I played, like, Superstar Saga on the GBA and absolutely adored it. I mean, so, like, I'm all in for this. If this was just the Direct, if they just showed this trailer and it said, that's all for today's Direct, I would be like, yeah, 10 out of 10. This is amazing. You gave me something amazing that I didn't expect. And for me, like, you can't have a better opening than that.
It's interesting. Yeah, it's a complete surprise. It's interesting what they're doing. It's also interesting just because we don't know who's making this.
Yeah,
there's no information.
Mystery.
There's some speculation. Some people think it might be Next Level because of the animation style that's being used in it.
Right.
I think it's mostly because there's like a Strikers-like kick that Mario does on a turtle shell at one point. I think that's the main reason some people are thinking it might be Next Level because it looks very similar to an animation from Strikers. There's also the fact that the studio that was closed down that made this franchise, a lot of the staff is still at Nintendo. They're just not in that studio now. They're like incorporated into Nintendo now.
They're spread around the various. There are also like a lot of employees spread around to other different companies too. So it's not like they all stayed at Nintendo.
Yeah. But there's lots of possibilities on it. It could be somebody we've never heard of. It could be a completely different developer.
Right.
I think it's Bethesda.
Could be could be Silicon Knight's shambling corpse.
Yeah. But that is Mario and Luigi Brothership, which was announced to be coming out on November 7th.
Yeah.
The next game they showed, something we've seen before, really didn't
they
get
already
too much
announced
new.
this.
Nintendo World Championship NES Edition.
They showed off
this as a trailer only a few weeks ago.
Yeah,
I don't know why they didn't just save this.
They showed off a couple new features to it, like the idea of the asynchronous challenge mode, where like you just do your run and then it's recorded, and then others like have to beat your run.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's cool. It's interesting.
Again, not as cool as Remix would have been.
Yeah, exactly. This is like NES Remix that's like squarely focused on like one thing. And I just wish it was like a full NES Remix sequel instead of like this. Oh, this is like, it's a speedrunning thing.
Yeah. I'm with you 100% on that. I really would have dug a Remix game. This has not done enough to convince me to get this.
Right.
But it is coming out on July 18th. Next, we got a trailer for Fairy Tail 2, which I know you cannot wait for.
It's never
in winter.
Watched an episode of Fairy Tail in my life.
It's an action RPG based on a anime/manga series. And yeah, that's about it. I'm kind of surprised they even showed this because Fairy Tail's not really that popular. I think the manga's done. I think the anime's been done for years. It's not like a super popular one like Dragon Ball, where like Dragon Ball still gets new games or something.
Oh yeah.
So I'm kind of like, don't even know why this was here. But yeah,
because it's a new game Bandai Namco's making, so yes.
There's one reason why I think it might be there, and I'll bring that up when we get to it.
Okay.
There's one connection, I should say. I don't think it's an actual reason why it's there, but it's kind of funny. The next game we're going to be talking about is a Apple Arcade game that everybody was like, damn, why is this game languishing on Apple Arcade when it could be on a real system?
Right.
Well, guess what? Fantasian Neo Dimension is coming in holiday 2024 to the Nintendo Switch.
I'm so happy about this. I'm so happy because I will be picking this up. It's a game I've been interested in. I haven't played it because it was on Apple Arcade.
Yeah.
It looks gorgeous. They actually like all the environments. You didn't know like
they're dioramas.
They're dioramas. They actually built dioramas and like filmed them and like incorporated them into the game, and they're beautiful.
Yeah, it's like a really cool style.
Another interesting thing is is this is being published by Square Enix. So this reunites Sakaguchi with Square Enix.
Yeah, I should mention this game is from Hironobu Sakaguchi, the creator of Final Fantasy. He also did Lost Odyssey, Last Story, Blue Dragon.
Through his studio Mistwalker.
Yes. And this was a game that people have been, why? Why is this on Apple Arcade? This needs to be on consoles. Now it is. Now it will be in holiday 2024. Next up, we got a bit of a surprise. This is one of those surprises that's just kind of fun. Like, I'm not terribly interested, but it's just like, what? And that's that Switch Sports, which that came out, 2.5, 3 years ago?
Yeah, it did.
Is getting a free update, and they're adding basketball.
They're adding basketballs, because sure.
Yeah, and it's a free update.
Yeah, which is really cool. It's cool for the people who are playing Switch Sports, I'm sure.
I have Switch Sports, and I've stopped playing it ages ago.
So, well, maybe you'll dust it off for this basketball update.
Maybe. And that is going to be coming on summer 2024. Next up, we got our first North American exclusive, or not really, I guess. I think this is the British one, too. The first one that wasn't in the Japanese version of the Direct, I should say, which is Mio, Memories in Orbit. This is a Metroidvania game. It's beautiful. I've heard a lot of comparisons to Ori, a lot of comparisons to Hollow Knight. I'm seeing similarities to even like
hand-drawn like art style to it.
Yeah, it's very cool. The character like moves with their hair in this kind of like spidery way that looks really interesting.
I'm definitely interested.
Yeah, it's a very cool looking game, and that is coming out in the vague release date of 2025, sometime next year.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Next up, we got a few things that aren't too terribly interesting. We'll go through pretty quickly.
These are like the quick hits.
These are mostly updates, I think, too. Disney Illusion Island is getting an update. It's a shadow drop that came out today. Hello Kitty Island Adventure, which I guess Butters from South Park willed into existence.
Yeah, it's funny because that was also an Apple Arcade exclusive until now.
Yeah, that is coming next
less
year.
Exciting.
There's two more here that are, again, ones that weren't in the Japanese Direct, and those are Looney Tunes Wacky World of Sports, which has probably the worst cell shading I've seen on a console. It's like a sports game, trying to do like NBA Jams type stuff, like weird sports, but like kind of arcadey, but with Looney Tunes characters. And it looks pretty bad to me. But that's coming in 2025. And then Among Us got an update that was shadow dropped today.
Yes.
So not too exciting. Next up, we got our obligatory farming game.
That's one prediction. I was confident in no farming games. I shouldn't have been so confident. That was folly on my end.
This game is called Formagia, and it involves you farming monsters, not ranching monsters. Farming
literally
monsters.
it's like Harvest Moon meets Pokemon.
Yeah, with a little bit of a Pikmin vibe too, because you have like a massive number of monsters at the same time.
Oh yeah, it looks like so silly because like the Pikmin like look like plants, look like they make sense like being planted and plucked out of the ground. It's like a wolf is growing on a freaking stalk. Yeah. It's like, what?
Yeah, and then you can merge a bunch of them, and then they turn into like a dragon.
Yeah, it's one of the weirdest games I've ever seen. I really didn't know what to make of it when I saw it. I was like, alright, okay.
So, this is the connection I was making to Fairy Tail 2. Fairy Tail, the manga, was created by a mangaka named Hiro Mishima. He's the guy that did the art for Formagia. I recognized it immediately. I've read a few of his works before, so I recognized the character design style. I'm like, yeah, that's weird that we just got a trailer for Fairy Tail 2 that I would have never guessed would be anything that would be made. And now we're getting a game that he did the character designs for. And it's kind of, okay, I guess he's trying to make us remember who he is.
Right, yeah.
But that is Formagia coming on November 1st. Then we got a remake trailer. This is one that some people have been, speculating or I think more than speculating, just kind of like wishing would be coming to Switch as an HD remaster for a while, but it hasn't. I didn't really hear anybody talking about it for this Direct, but we got it. And that is Donkey Kong Country Returns HD. So yeah, we're getting a HD version of the Donkey Kong Country Returns game that came out on the Nintendo Wii. This is the predecessor to the Tropical Freeze, which came out on the Wii U and then was later ported to the Switch.
Yes, now you got both games on Switch.
And a follow-up to the original Donkey Kong Country series, which was done by Rare, who is now owned by Microsoft. These ones were done by Retro. Yeah, these original games. This port is not being done by Retro.
No, we actually know the developer behind the port. It's Forever Entertainment.
We know what they've done before.
They did remakes of Panzer Dragoon.
That filled me with a little disappointment.
Yeah, they did the Panzer Dragoon remake. They did the Front Mission remakes for Square Enix, the House of the Dead remake, and they announced a couple of years ago now, like two or so years ago now, that Nintendo made a big investment into Forever Entertainment. And now we see what the result of that investment was.
Yeah.
And you say that, like, I get it, but, like, also, like, look at this trailer. This looks exactly like Donkey Kong Country Returns. So, like, I'm like, kind of like, don't have any worries. Cause, like,
there were some performance issues with Panzer Dragoon, the remake. That's why I'm a little concerned.
Oh, right. Yeah. And
but I don't know. I mean, this looked like it was running really smooth, so.
This has the potential to be the definitive version of the game, just cause, like, the other versions have, like, some weird compromises. You know, like, the Wii version, obviously, you are forced to use the Wii motion controls to play the game.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, the 3DS version has extra stages and stuff, and you don't have to use the motion controls, but also it's, like, lower resolution than the Wii version, and obviously you can only play it on 3DS. On the handheld, you can't play it on your TV. So, and this does have the extra levels from the 3DS version. I'm assuming you don't have to use motion controls for this version. So this should actually be the definitive version of the game.
Yeah.
But as far as announcements, if you go back to last week's podcast and our predictions, this is kind of like the level of where we were at in, like, terms of expectations for this Direct. I expected a lot more Donkey Kong Country Returns HDs and a lot less Mario and Luigi Brotherships.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Next up, we got a trailer for a game that we'd been waiting for to hear from. This is something that a lot of people were just assuming we were going to get. Not with any inside information, but just because it's been it long enough and people were expecting that it would be making an appearance. I'm kind of surprised because it's Dragon Quest, and Dragon Quest usually doesn't show up like a Nintendo Direct. Usually they have their own events. Dragon Quest is just that big that they do their own kind of events and stuff.
Well, they did do, like, the Dragon Quest anniversary, where they released a statement announcing the platforms for this game, but they didn't divulge further details other than the platforms, and they made a statement about it, and I think that got the speculation going that, they're probably going to show it off at the Nintendo Direct.
This, of course, we're talking about Dragon Quest III, the HD 2D remake, which is going to be coming on November 14th. I am a big fan of the HD 2D games. I respect Dragon Quest, but I haven't really been too much of a fan of any of the games. I think they're kind of boring for the most part, actually.
I mean, they're pretty vanilla, right?
Yeah.
I played through the first game, and yeah, it's a pretty vanilla game. I heard, like, there's a lot more going on in 3, like, there's a job system, there's party. I want to get into it. I want to go through the original trilogy, and I've been, like, I got halfway through 2. Like, it was the SNES remake, the Super Famicom remake with the English translation, the fan patch.
Mm-hmm.
I got halfway through that, but, like I do, and I think, like, this is going to be, like, the perfect opportunity to do that. This is going to be the perfect jumping in point to play that. So I'm actually looking forward to this. I'm actually excited for this. I will be buying this. I'm hoping, like, this ignites some love for these games. Yeah, I'm in for it. This is like a pretty big get for the Direct, actually.
I might be getting this, and the main reason is I have all of the HD 2D games except for the mobile version of Octopath Traveler. I don't have that, but all the other HD 2D games that have been made, I own. I have a copy of, and I love them. And I think it's actually kind of interesting. Like, that side of it is interesting on its own because they've evolved with each one that's come out. Like, there's things they were doing visually with Octopath Traveler 2 that added, like, completely new more three-dimensional objects, polygons being used, but in a way that looked like sprites that wasn't done in the first Octopath Traveler that was done in 2. They did the Live Alive remake. They added in all sorts of interesting new kind of visual tricks and stuff that weren't done in any of the Octopath Traveler games. They did some new things with, like, a chemistry type system with, like, destructible environments and stuff with Triangle Strategy. That was, like, one of the HD2 games as well. So they've, like, with each HD2 game they've made, they've started pushing kind of the limits of what HD2D means. And you can already see in this game, there's, like, large polygonal objects that, like, fit seamlessly within the world. There's, like, giant swords in a hallway that are floating above you, or, like, these, like, faces sticking out of the wall. So there's, like, these details that are much more detailed, but the big difference between this and any of the other HD 2D games I've seen is the enemy animations. So in like Octopath Traveler, it's very much like Final Fantasy VI or something, where you have like a pretty detailed but static image of the person you're facing. Like they don't animate, they're just static, you know? And here you have fully animated, very detailed, less like 16-bit looking and more like almost 32-bit looking sprites of like the enemies and stuff that you're fighting. And it's just very good, like detailed animation and stuff. I think this is exactly what we needed for like the HD 2D, because HD 2D started as like this, it's like the old style that you liked, but like modernized with lighting effects and stuff. And now they're starting to push at that and go like, okay, we're not just doing this for the sake of nostalgia. We're trying to make really beautiful games that draw on what worked in that like 16-bit era, but like incorporating everything that's worked since then as well, you know, not like limiting it to just that. So I think I'm excited about this game more for that than I am for the fact that it's a remake of 3.
Right.
This is going to be coming out on November 14th. They also announced that they're going to be doing an HD 2D remake of 1 and 2. I think that's together as one game. They didn't really clarify that, but it looks like it's one game.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I mean, 1 by itself isn't a big enough game to like sell individually.
Yeah, that's the 1 and 2 are coming in 2025. They also noted that chronologically, Dragon Quest 3 takes place before 1 and 2.
Yes, Dragon Quest 3 is a prequel to the first 2 games, bit like that, and Yuji Horii, like, even, like, suggested that you play 3 and then 1 and 2 in that order.
Mm-hmm.
And he even, like, kind of slightly hinted that there might be, like, some bonus for playing in that order.
So that's going to be interesting. Our next game that was shown is the next one that was not shown in the Japanese Direct, and that is Funko Fusion. We've seen this before. We saw like an announcement for it, I think last year.
I'm shocked Japan is not getting this game.
It's probably a licensing issue is what I'm guessing.
No, that was sarcasm. I'm not shocked.
Yeah, I think there's a licensing issue more than any other reason why this isn't.
Oh yeah, for sure.
In certain regions. But yeah, I mean, this looks like that the studio is trying to eat Traveler Tales lunch.
Yeah, there's like trying to like be Lego, and it's like it doesn't work because like Funkos are ugly and they're not as charming as Legos.
I have a few Funko figures. I like some of them. I think for certain things they work, and for a lot of things they don't. Like I have some Stranger Things ones. I think those look great, you know. But then like I've seen other ones where it's like I can't even tell who the character is. It's so generified that I can't even tell who it is, you know.
Right. Yeah.
So that's like a part of the problem with it. It seems like they're really leaning into the Jurassic Park license on this. But what I found more interesting were some of the ones that just I would not have expected. Shaun of the Dead, for example. Was in this trailer. That I would have never expected Shaun of the Dead.
That was surprising. It looks like like they're really like nothing is off limits for this.
Yeah, but I mean, in general, I'm not too terribly excited about this. I like the idea of like crazy crossovers that can draw from so many different things and stuff, but I just don't have a lot of confidence that it's going to be actually engaging to play. So nothing I've seen from it looks like that so far, but who knows? We'll see when this comes out. Pay attention to the reviews, I guess. The next game that was shown was Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. This is a HD remaster. We've known about this.
I mean, this is coming out new information.
This is in the Direct because it's coming this month, and they need to
we're still in the middle of the marketing cycle for the game, so...
Yeah, it's going to be coming on June 27th. We already mentioned it in our On the Horizon segment.
You already know if you want this.
Yeah. I'm one of those
it.
people that wants to play Luigi's Mansion 3 and hasn't gotten around to it yet.
Same,
and
in my backlog.
From all accounts I've heard, 3 is like by far the best game in the franchise.
The better, yeah, 3 is the better game of this.
What I've heard is 3 is the best game in the franchise, 2 is the worst game in the franchise.
Yeah.
And so, if I'm gonna play a Luigi's Mansion, I'm gonna play 3. I played the first one on GameCube.
I'm still gonna check this out, because I'm not gonna like be fully swayed by others' opinions, but yeah.
That's coming on June 27th. I'm just gonna, if I'm gonna play one, I'll play 3, and then if I really like that, then maybe I'll play 2. You know? But it's priorities. 3 takes priority. I just haven't gotten to it.
Oh, absolutely, priorities.
Next game that was shown is, I think this is related to 3DS stuff, having to do with Spot Pass and stuff, but I'm not sure, because, like, I'm not really a handheld gamer. But this is the new Denpa Men.
I don't know what Denpa Men are, but, like...
They said it was a console exclusive, which made me think like maybe this isn't a Street Pass thing, but the characters looked like Mii's. Like I'm confused. I don't know what this is.
Okay, this was originally the Denpa Men. They came by Wave, reading off Wikipedia, as a 3D augmented reality game published by Genius Sonority for Nintendo 3DS eShop. It released on Japan February 8th, 2012, and in North America September 27th, 2012. So this is the sequel to that, which is like, that is really Nintendo deep cut, actually.
So Genius Seniority, I was just looking it up to remind myself.
Oh, they did Pokemon Coliseum.
Yeah, they're tied to Nintendo and the Pokemon Company. They also developed the games in Dragon Quest related. I think they're the...
Unfortunately, they're doing this now, but they were also I think they've been stuck with doing a Pokemon Cafe remix on mobile.
Yeah, that's the last thing on their resume here.
Yeah.
So I guess they did, in 2017, they did the new Danpaman, and then now they're doing the new Danpaman RPG. There's also Disney Fairies, Dragon Quest Swords, You
want an obscure Nintendo IP to come back? Here it is. Yeah. I was like, okay, they mentioned this was free to play. So I'm like, okay. I don't know, I was like, okay, this is just a weird game.
This is coming on July 22nd of this year. They're coming soon too. Next up, we got Metal Slug Attack Reloaded, and it's a shadow drop. It's out today.
And this is a port of a mobile game,
which is a tower defense based on Metal Slug.
It's a Metal Slug tower defense game.
They've been playing a lot with the Metal Slug franchise without really making actual new Metal Slug games.
Right, they go a Metal Slug Tactics. Yeah.
Tactics actually looks pretty good though. I don't know about this one.
Yeah, I don't know about this one. This is a mobile game. It's tower defense, and I gotta admit, I'm not a big fan of tower defense games. I've tried to play them, I tried that Final Fantasy one they did for Xbox and PS3, Final Fantasy Crystal Defenders. I bought that on Xbox Live Arcade and played some of that. I just couldn't get into it at all.
Yeah, and I think the only kind of tower defense game I liked was Swords and Soldiers, which is an old WiiWare game, and they made a sequel to it, and I kind of enjoyed those, but in general, I'm not really a fan.
Same.
But yeah, so the next game they showed was another that was not in the Japanese Direct, and that is Darkest Dungeon 2. That's going to be coming on July 15th, 2024. A lot of people really like Darkest Dungeon. It's got a cool visual aesthetic.
It does.
It's like a card-based RPG kind of thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's card-based RPG. It looks interesting. I never played it, but it looks like something I'd check out for sure.
It's got a cool visual aesthetic at the very least, but...
Yes, and I love card-based RPGs, so sue me! I don't care.
I will. There's a claims person at your door right now, waiting to get your signature and then tell you can serve. Next up, we have a segment where they showed new games coming to the Nintendo Switch Online, and this is Shadow Drop. These all came out the day of the Direct.
Yep, this is your Nintendo Switch Online for the next 3 months before they do another Shadow Drop.
Interestingly, all 4 of these games are for the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pass. None of these
I really hate there's no regular schedule for these. It's just whatever.
Yeah, it's kind of hectic, and a lot of times you'll go a long time getting garbage before something interesting pops up. But tying into a Direct, they dropped some good ones.
Oh yeah.
So first off, they dropped 2 GBA games and 2 N64 games.
It's hilarious how
I should also point out it's interesting that the N64 games were put in a new app. It's a mature N64 game app.
Yeah, mature 17 plus. That's so annoying. That's annoying. It's we want to protect the kids. It's okay, well, just I don't know, have some parental control thing.
But just know, don't hop into the N64 app looking for them.
Yeah, have an interface where you launch the game and you have to enter some parental control password at least. Having to download a separate app for 2 games. Oh man, come on. Yeah. Okay.
Maybe it needs more.
Rant over. But... Yeah, and also that app isn't locked by parental controls. I don't get it. Okay.
Yeah. Well, the GBA games we got the Legend of Zelda.
I just have to point out the GBA games were hints at what's happening in the Direct.
Yeah.
Actually, Perfect Dark too, because they showed off the new Perfect Dark at the Microsoft conference.
You just ran ahead and spoiled that.
Yes.
You hadn't gotten to it yet. Yeah, damn it.
Damn it.
No, so the first game that was shown was Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past 4 Swords. This is a full remake of Link to the Past that was done on Game Boy Advance with an additional 4-player mode. Fairly beloved, much more so I think than Triforce Heroes one that came after.
Yeah, Triforce Heroes doesn't seem to be that well received. I never played it because I'll have people around me to play these games with.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest. Actually, this is exciting for me now because this is online capable, so like I could probably actually play Four Swords now with people online.
Yeah, so this is 4 Swords and it's A Link to the Past as well, which A Link to the Past is already on there, but this is the GBA version of that.
Yeah, if you want to play a GBA version of Link to the Past for some reason, there you go.
You can do that now too. And then we got Metroid Zero Mission, which was a GBA remake of the original Metroid that added a whole like side quest thing where you use Zero Suit Samus.
Oh.
And it was kind of harkening back to the improvements in the franchise that were made with like Super and Fusion.
Oh yeah. This is the remake that the original Metroid needed. This is the definitive way to experience the original.
Yeah, don't bother
Metroid
playing
story.
the original version.
No,
Play
I mean,
Zero Mission.
Right, yeah.
It's a lot better. It's more in line with like what you'd get with Fusion or Super, which are much better games than the original.
Exactly. This is like so glad Nintendo did this back in the day.
But now it's available. Metroid Fusion was already available, and now Zero Mission is as well. And now on to the N64 games. The first one they showed was Turok Dinosaur Hunter, which is a retro connection because Turok was made by Iguana, which is a developer that is largely the basis of retro.
Right,
most of the staff of Iguana was shut down and most of the staff formed retro.
Yes.
I don't know how much of that stuff is still at retro, but most of that stuff formed retro.
Yeah, not a lot. Okay, right. Under Jeff Spagenberg, who turned out to be a total flake and got fired by Nintendo.
Yeah, Turok was a pretty revolutionary first-person shooter on the N64 at the time.
Yes,
it was kind of like, oh wow, polygonal, first-person shooters can be done on consoles. This is like pre-GoldenEye, This is something that kind of grabbed people's attention at that point.
Oh yeah, for sure.
This is also not available on the Japanese version of it. Turok did not come out in Japan for this.
Yep, so no Turok for Japan, but that's fine.
But Japan is getting the next N64 game we have on here, which is Perfect Dark.
Yep, this is also a long-awaited addition to, this is Rare's, pseudo-sequel to GoldenEye. Basically, GoldenEye launched by N64, and that made an impact. That made a huge impact.
Yeah, it was the game around college campuses.
Yeah, and so obviously it was gonna get a sequel. But
they didn't have the license to James Bond.
They did have the license to James Bond. I guess they weren't, willing to pay to renew that license. So Rare just came up with a new IP instead.
Yep. So Perfect Dark was spiritual successor to GoldenEye.
Yes.
And we mentioned last week that there was a new Perfect Dark game being shown, that's coming to, Xbox Series X. And, that there was a one that came out on the 360 as well.
Yeah, Perfect Dark Zero.
So Perfect Dark has had, it will have 3 games by the time that the next one comes out. But we're getting this remake of the first one from back when Rare was a, Nintendo developer before Microsoft bought them. So yeah, this goes along with the whole Microsoft Nintendo partnership thing. So it's kind of cool. I never really into the Perfect Dark games. What's interesting here is, like you said, that you would have trouble playing a game like Four Swords because you didn't have people around you to play with. Well, like that, Perfect Dark is something you can now play online.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people
which is cool for the
people
who want to do that. I'm mostly just interested in the campaign, single player campaign. I don't care about.
You could actually play
the
multiplayer stuff in Perfect Dark solo because you can.
Yeah,
it
has bots. Yeah, which is funny because back in the day, so Perfect Dark used the N64 expansion pack, but it wasn't required. I say that in air quotes because there's still there is content in Perfect Dark that you cannot access or play without the expansion pack, but there's still content that you can play. And one of those is multiplayer. And I think without the expansion pack, you do multiplayer with 4 bots or something. The campaign mode was not accessible without the expansion pack. You could not play the single player campaign.
I remember the bots
and I think if you had the expansion pack, you could play with more bots too.
I remember
just before.
Perfect Dark. It was interesting with the bots because because you could kind of program them to a limited extent. Like you could kind of set their behavior as well as their skill level, I guess, if I remember correctly. So that was kind of interesting. I know like that led to, I had friends that I would play. I didn't really like Perfect Dark or first person shooters in general, but I would play like Smash Brothers with a group of friends, and they would play Perfect Dark as well. And I'd usually just kind of sit out when they were doing that. And when they played Perfect Dark, it was similar to the way we play Smash Brothers, where we would go like, oh, okay, let's modify the rules. Let's change the rules here, change what items are done just to make the most chaos possible. Well, Perfect Dark was very much in the same vein. You could like program the way you wanted the bots to react. Then you could like choose like certain kind of weapon options and stuff. And there was a lot of like fun things you could do to modify the type of game you were playing, basically. And that was a big part of the draw of Perfect Dark, is how kind of modular it was in that way, like how modular the experience was. So I know a lot of people are excited about that. Not really me, but I know a lot of people are excited about it.
Oh yeah.
Next up, we got a trailer for Phantom Brave, The Lost Hero from Nipponichi. This is the sequel to Phantom Brave, which came out on, I think, PS2 and Wii.
Yes.
It's like a 20-year-old game. Getting a sequel.
Was not expecting this.
Yeah, I don't think anybody was. It wasn't like a really beloved game. I mean, Nipponichi made the Sky games. Those are beloved, you know? Phantom Brave was never really a beloved franchise. So it's kind of weird that it's out of nowhere it's coming back. It definitely looks like the kind of art style of the modern Disgaea games. That kind of like chibi 3D kind of like low polygon representation that we've seen with the last two Disgaea games that came out on Switch. So it kind of has that kind of look to it. So you can tell it's like the same team and stuff. But yeah, this is one of those like, who asked for this type of games? Like who was really excited about this? You know, who wanted this game?
I don't know people who loved Phantom Brave. I'm not gonna like sit here in front like
I'm not gonna talk trash about it. I'm just saying I've never heard of anybody being a fan of this game.
There's probably a fan base for it. I don't know.
I'm sure there are, but they're very
I'm
quiet.
just saying, like, I haven't, yeah.
The
like,
Earthbound fan base, they are not.
Right, oh yeah, for sure. Like, I've never played Phantom Brave, so like, I can't say, like, I didn't, like, my thing was like, oh, that's cool for people like that. Like, that was my reaction.
Next game, we got Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection Arcade Classics. There's what, like 6 to 8 games, something like that in here?
Yes, it's great. So like, Capcom's been porting their arcade games to modern systems, including Switch, through various compilations, like pretty much since the generation started. They started with like the Street Fighter Anniversary Collection, which had like all the Street Fighter games.
They did that Darksiders one.
Yeah, they did the Fighting Collection, which added the Darkstalkers games, you know.
That's right, Darkstalkers, not Darksiders.
Yeah, Darkstalkers. And the thing was, like, once you had those, like, the last missing contingent, as far as, like, fighting games were concerned from that era, was the Marvel games. Those were the ones that were missing.
And that started with, the first one they did was just a X-Men fighting game.
Yeah, well, the first game they did that's on here is, like, it's the
Punisher. I mean, the first fighting game.
Oh, yeah, the first fight was just an X-Men game. Yeah, it was X-Men
Then they did
Children.
Street Fighter versus X-Men.
Yes.
And then Marvel versus Capcom.
No.
Oh.
So they did, X-Men Children of the Atom, then X-Men versus Street Fighter, then Marvel Superheroes versus Street Fighter, then Marvel versus Capcom.
And then Marvel versus Capcom 2.
And Marvel versus Capcom 2.
That's when after that they started branching out. That's when they did like Marvel versus SNK and some other ones.
Yeah, they did Capcom versus SNK and, Tatsunoko versus Capcom.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I know like now, like there are people like saying, oh, we need like Capcom versus SNK collection, which they might do at some point.
Because there were two versions of that game, right? There was one that was done by SNK and one that was done by Capcom.
Yes. And then there was also a sequel, Capcom versus SNK 2, Match of the Millennium. And then I think there was like another one of those. But like, for me, this is huge, because this is what I wanted ever since they announced, like, the Fighting Collection, and, like, I was like, okay, we need to get the Marvel games on here now. I feel like Capcom needs to talk to Marvel, get them to license them, and release that collection. I was
so
like,
what I've heard is that one of these games, I think it's Marvel vs. Capcom 2, has been kind of like, there's been, like, no way to play it for, like, the longest time.
Right. The last port was the digital version for PS3 and Xbox 360, which which has since been delisted.
Yeah,
like
so
a
it was
long
kind of
time ago.
floating in the ether.
Yes.
And now that's got a home, so people can play it again. This also got, like you mentioned, the Punisher game. I think there's another X-Men game as well that's like not a fighting game. It's like an arcade game.
Nope.
Okay, I don't know. But anyways, it's, this is the Marvel-related Capcom games, all in a pack, except Marvel vs. Capcom 3 is not on this.
Right, because this is just the arcade games, and Marvel vs. Capcom 3 was a console game.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is all the arcade games they did, and so this doesn't go past Marvel vs. Capcom 2, which makes sense.
In some ways. It would have been a more compelling package if it also had 3, because then it would have been complete. Regardless of if it was made for arcade or not, you know, it's important is where you can play it together, you know?
Well, you're forgetting about Infinite, then, because Infinite came out.
They all should have been on there.
They all should have been on there, which, I mean, you get Infinite, and, they did release Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 for modern systems, so you can still buy that. I don't think it's on the Switch, though.
No, it's not. That one I know
unfortunate, yeah.
Next game we got shown was Super Mario Party Jamboree, which is promising to be the biggest Mario Party game with the most minigames. I didn't see anything about it necessarily having the most stages, but it's supposed to have the most minigames.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest, like, new Mario Party doesn't, like, particularly excite me, but this trailer does look better than the other 2 games that released for the Switch, so.
Yeah. I have to say, though, it frustratingly is doing what the first Super Mario Party did, specifically pointing to the word super being added into it, because that game required Joy-Con. You could not play with Pro Controllers. I got new Joy-Con because one of my Joy-Con was drifting and Nintendo wasn't really doing their job at that time of replacing or fixing Joy-Cons that were drifting. Mm-hmm. So in order to play Super Mario Party, I bought some new Joy-Con so that I could play it. Since then, both of those Joy-Con are now also drifting. It's not really an issue for me because I don't really play mobile, you know, like I don't really play Switch as a handheld. I play it as a console.
Right, you play with the Pro Controller.
But it's really frustrating that there are a small selection of games that require Joy-Con. And there is nothing in this game, just as there is nothing in the Super Mario Party that should require a Joy-Con. Even the motion stuff can be done with the Pro Controller. It just can't be done in the way where you hold it in your hand, in one hand, and make it feel like it's this natural extension. It's like, but I don't give a shit about that. I just want to be able to actually play the game.
Traditional controls, yeah.
Yeah, like I could do motion controls with the Pro Controller too.
They should make it an option.
Yeah, they didn't with Super Paper Mario. It looks like they're not doing it with this, and obviously they don't do it with Switch Sports. So that's another reason why I'm not excited about the Switch Sports basketball update, is because I have to break out my drifting Joy-Cons, which don't work. So
you get like the Gilly
not gonna do that.
The Gilly Kit Hall Effect Joy-Con replacement sticks.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna go through the trouble.
Oh yeah, you should have to, you know.
Yeah, this should just have a Pro Controller option, and it doesn't look like it does, unfortunately. It looks like it's following the footsteps of Super Mario Party, which got random weird updates that fixed other problems, like the fact that it didn't have an online mode. They fixed that and stuff, but they never added in Pro Controller support, unfortunately.
There's always a caveat to these, isn't there?
Yeah. Our next game that was shown is my personal favorite game of this Direct, and that is The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, which kicked off like, okay, they're making another Zelda game in the style of the Link's Awakening remake. And which remake is this going to be?
Right. I expected that if they were going to do another 2D Zelda, it was going to be in the same style as Link's Awakening. Like, they would reuse those assets. They made
an engine and assets for it. Yeah, they're going to
exactly
benefit off of that. But, like, when I first saw this, I'm like, oh, this is Link Between Worlds. It looks very similar to Link Between Worlds.
That's what I thought.
So I was like, oh, that's cool. They're going to put Link Between Worlds out. That's pretty cool. I've already played that, though. I don't know. Maybe I'll get this. Maybe I won't. I don't know. And then all of a sudden, it's looking like you're controlling Zelda instead of Link. And it's like, wait, what? I would say rumored, but there was no basis to the rumors. It was just desired. The long-desired playable Zelda game is now coming.
Papa Gino's is taking credit because he posted a tweet that said that, like, he capitalized a bunch of random letters in it. He said, wouldn't it be cool if there was, like, a new Zelda game where you played as Zelda? And apparently the capitalized letters spelled out, this is a hint. And now he's like, saying like, oh yeah, well, yeah, he knew all along about this game.
Yeah, I don't believe leakers.
Yeah.
Even if they have a record they can point to, like, I still don't believe them. It's just on principle.
Right. Oh yeah.
But this game looks really cool. What's interesting about this is that it's kind of doing that Link's Awakening remake style, like graphically and stuff, but it also definitely feels like it's in the era of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom with its gameplay. Because the gameplay looks like it's doing...
Oh yeah, looks like they're transporting like that style of like free-form gameplay to 2D Zelda.
Yeah,
which is really cool.
Zelda.
With like the ecosystem where Zelda could just like copy random items and like just make endless copies of them.
Yeah, and enemies as well and other things.
Yeah.
It looks really cool. Yeah, I'm excited for this game.
Yeah, it looks fantastic. I mean, this is gonna be another 10 out of 10 Zelda game. I'm definitely excited. I mean, this is like this was like another megaton announcement for this Direct. Like the first one was Mario and Luigi, and then they dropped this, and I'm like, okay, wow.
So I know what I'm going to be doing on September 26th, and that's going to be playing Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. And I know what you're going to be doing on September 30th when you finally get your physical copy shipped to you.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
They also announced that they're making a gold Zelda-themed Switch Lite that's going to be coming out on the same day.
Urge to buy
kind of surprising, considering that the Switch Lite is by far the worst selling of the Switch variants in the Switch family of consoles.
Yeah.
But I guess they already have like a golden Zelda-themed
yeah, they did the
OLED
Switch
and a
OLED
golden Zelda-themed regular Switch, so...
I think this also might speak to like kind of like product marketing positioning where like, Tears of the Kingdom is big boy Zelda, so it gets the big boy Switch special edition, and this is more, I mean, this is like for all ages, but like with the art style stuff, this is definitely like geared towards a younger audience, and so it's like the Switch Lite, so it's kind of like
more the tradition of the handheld too versus console.
So that makes more sense. Like I see the logic in it.
Yeah. Next game is another one. I think it's the last one on this list. Yes, it is. That was not in the Japanese Direct. And that is Just Dance 2025 coming October.
We don't
of
need
2025.
to say anything else about that. So
also coming to the Wii, probably. I don't know.
Yeah, coming to Super Nintendo.
Yeah. Next game, Lego Horizon Adventures. We already knew about this.
We've already discussed
We mentioned
this
last week, coming holiday 2024.
It still blows my mind. I mean, it even said, like, the publisher, PlayStation Publishing. To have a Sony PlayStation, first-party Sony PlayStation game, Sony IP, in Nintendo Direct blows my mind. But here we are.
Here we are.
Bizarre times. It looks
one
fun, though.
Next one surprised me, and that's Stray.
Yeah.
I was not expecting Stray.
Yeah, no, I wasn't either.
This is the kind of game I was not expecting. Holiday 2024.
Probably wouldn't play it on Switch.
Yeah, it looks a little fuzzy.
Yeah.
It's not the best looking. I mean, it looks like it runs smooth, but it's not the greatest looking game. It's kind of like, I'd say it looks like Witcher 3 for Switch in that way. Like it looks blurry and fuzzy and not nearly as good as the other versions of the game, but it looks like it runs clean,
Right, yeah.
So if you got no other option, you can play Stray on the Switch in holiday of 2024. If you do have another option, that's probably the better way to play it. Next game we got was Tales of the Shire, which was like half a year ago, I think, or something. It's basically Animal Crossing Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I don't care.
Yeah, I don't either. That's coming holiday 2024 as well. And then we got the announcement of Ace Attorney Investigations Collection. This is like the Ace Attorney games that don't have Phoenix Wright. Isn't that basically what it is?
And apparently like one of them was also never localized before, so
yeah,
that's cool. Capcom's killing it with these collections, I swear.
Yeah.
They're just killing it.
And that's coming on September 6th. Next we got a game. I was like, wait, is this Deca Police? When this game started playing, I'm like, I could swear this is Deca Police.
I heard somebody say Deca Police, and I'm like, no, it doesn't look like the art style. I was like, oh, the art style is like super familiar. It's like, I recognize this art style, I just can't place release it.
It is the same team that did Decapolice, though, but they're
the
better known
Danganronpa
for
team?
doing Danganronpa, yeah.
I didn't know, like, Danganronpa team was involved in Decapolice.
Yeah, they're the team that did it, same artist and everything, but that's why I was thinking it was Decapolice. I'm like, oh, this is the Danganronpa team, this must be Decapolice. I thought that was already out. Like, I'm like, is that already out? Like, is it not out? Like, what's going on with that? Are they showing this again? And then as it started progressing, I'm like, this is looking a lot different than Decapolice. This is looking very different. And it started looking more and more like Danganronpa. And it's like, okay, what is this? Turns out this is a brand new game. It's called The 100 Line, and it's coming in early 2025. So yeah, the Danganronpa games are always kind of cool. They're kind of more narrative-focused games with, like, you know, they have some gameplay elements, but it's usually, like, more along the lines of, like, a Phoenix Wright or, you know, Ace Attorney type game, you know? Like,
right.
Very light gameplay elements and more like story and, you know, choices and stuff. But that's, yeah, coming in early 2025. Then we got a remake, a complete remake that's pretty unexpected and looks great for Romancing Saga 2, Revenge of the Seven.
Yeah, I was surprised by that. Like, yeah, this looks cool.
This is a lot more love than I would have ever expected Romancing Saga to be getting.
No, right. But then, like, the series creator, Kawazu, is like a senior producer with a lot of, like, pull. Like, they continue to produce these games.
What you're saying is he's abusing his authority.
Yes.
I mean, this looks fantastic. Great Kate physics.
Yes, it does. It looks great. I'm definitely interested, especially since it's a game I never played. They did release, I guess, like, they did release a remaster, like, in the vein of, like, the Final Fantasy Pixel remasters a couple of years ago for modern platforms, including the Switch.
Yeah.
It's still 2D. It's still, like, 16-bit style pixel art. But,
yeah,
like,
they did that a while ago.
It's in English, and it's the first time the game was released in English. Because back in the day, all three of the Romancing Saga games that came out were never released in English. Until they did, like, the
PlayStation one?
Remasters. Saga Frontier was released here, yeah.
Yeah, I think that was the first original one that was released here.
Actually, no, because the first three Saga games were released here.
No, I mean, like, the first, like, as a new game that was released here. Like, those were remasters or remakes or whatever that released here.
No. The first three Saga games were released here.
In a package, or sorry.
No. The first three Saga games were released here on the original Game Boy.
Oh, okay, those were the
Final Fantasy
Legends?
Yeah, Final Fantasy Legend 1 and 2 and Final Fantasy something. Like, they were renamed to Final Fantasy.
Yeah, there was another Final Fantasy game on Game Boy that was actually the Secret of Mana 2, I think. Or Secret of Mana 1, or I don't know.
Yeah, the first Secret of Mana. Then the Final Fantasy Legend games were Saga 1 and Saga 2. And then they did a Romancing Saga series on the Super Famicom. And those never got localized. And then they did Saga Frontier on the PS1 that did get localized.
Okay, and then this is now a full remake that just visually it reminds me a lot of like Dragon Quest X. 11. I mean, 11S, the Elusive Age, or the one that came out on Switch. Like, it graphically reminds me a lot of that. Like, it's of that level. Yes. Which kind of surprises me that they put
really
that much
cool.
budget into something like this.
Oh, right, yeah. It looks really cool. I'm definitely gonna get it and check it out. Always want to, like, play those games anyway, so, like, yeah, I'll do it.
And then the last game, the one more thing of the show.
This was like the bookend, right? We opened with Mario and Luigi. We're ending with something big.
So it starts up, and we're getting Metroid Prime 2 Echoes. HD.
HD remaster.
No, I was like, again, as I'm watching this, I'm like, is this Echoes? This looks a little different than Echoes. Like, but this is Echoes, right? And then I'm like, oh no, this is Metroid Prime 4, it turns out. We got a very brief trailer. I think it's like about a minute of footage. And then a little tease thing at the end they showed of, environments that they showed after the title.
Yeah.
We have very different opinions on this.
I was actually, like, very shocked by your opinion, but, like, you can go ahead and, like, just give us your feelings.
I think this looks incredibly unambitious. I think it looks graphically barely better than the remaster that was released for Switch just recently, and not even in, like, I'd say the top 10 best looking Switch games, which for a retro game game is surprising to me. Like, I think I was expecting it to be much higher. I'm also just severely disappointed that this isn't just for the next gen Switch, for the Switch successor, where it could have been a tech showpiece and made from the ground up for that to actually look like really good and different and like a true evolution. And instead, we got the remaster, and this looks like it's a continuation of the remaster. I don't really see much difference on it. That's kind of what I got from this. Like, it just didn't impress me at all.
Okay. Well, I got a completely different impression. I saw this, I've watched the trailer like multiple times now. This looks, I mean, scope-wise, it looks like it's same in scope as the other Metroid Prime, which is fine. For me, it's fine. It's like, people are like, oh, it's not open world. We don't need an open world Metroid. Let's be honest. Not everything has to be some massive open world thing.
Well, I mean, the ending of the trailer kind of hinted that there might be some aspects
I mean,
of
there might
areas.
be. Yeah, there might be larger areas. Like, yeah, we don't know everything because they only showed a few minutes of, like, gameplay, like a very, like, tiny section of the game. But so far it looks like Metroid Prime, which is, like, good. For me, good.
I'm hoping there's a lot more to it. They didn't show that though, and they chose not to show that.
Which is
so
fine.
that's
It's
on them. I can't hold back my disappointment because they decided not to show something.
Graphically, this is one of the best looking Switch games I've ever seen. Like, this is like, you compared it to the remaster. The remaster was made using the engine that they're using to make this. And the remaster looked phenomenal
looked good for a remaster.
Well, I mean, it looked phenomenal. It was a complete remaster. It went above and beyond what it was supposed to. And this looks even like a step further than that. Like, I've seen like direct comparison shots, and there's definitely like more detail, more texture to it. To the point, like, where, like, there are people genuinely, like, IGN put out, like, an article, like, to say, is this Switch 2?
Yeah, and then the people they asked was Digital Foundry, who immediately said, LOL, no.
Well, yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, it's not because it looks bad or anything. They said LOL, no, because Nintendo is not going to say, this is a Switch game, and then secretly show Switch 2 footage. They're not gonna, like, do that.
I think anybody who's saying, this looks like a Switch 2 game is severely underestimating what Retro is capable of.
Oh, they're severely underestimating what a Switch 2 game would look like. To be honest, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this
does not look like a Switch 2 game at all.
This looks fantastic for the capabilities of the Wii, but yeah, this does not look like a Switch 2 game.
Like this,
I'm with you there.
To me, this doesn't look as good as Tears of the Kingdom. This doesn't look as good as Xenoblade Chronicles 3. This doesn't look as good as, like, I'd say this wouldn't crack my top 10 best looking Switch games from what they've shown.
Right.
Now, there's a big caveat there. They might open up to a new environment and, like, blow my mind, but they haven't shown that. So I can't just expect that that's gonna be there, you know?
Right, yeah, exactly. They showed traditional Metroid Prime gameplay, like, traditional environments. I mean, remastered looks gorgeous as well. It does. And
looks like a good remaster.
Well, it looks gorgeous, period. Let's be real. Yeah, this looks great to me. I don't know, like it's more Metroid Prime. It looks great. It hit everything it needed to hit for the initial reveal. The only disappointment, and like I understand people are just like I predicted this last week when we did our predictions. I said it was going to be here, and people were going to be disappointed. It's not a Switch 2 game, and I see that, and I'm like, yep, like clockwork. And I kind of like set myself up for that by like convincing myself that this was a Switch game, so that I wouldn't get let down by expectations. Would I love to see this running on next gen hardware with like all the bells and whistles? Like, absolutely.
Yeah, I think the important thing there is, because I've talked to some people when I've said I was disappointed at it, that said like, oh, don't worry, I'm sure there's going to be either a patch or a Switch successor version of it that'll look better. It's like, there's a big difference between a game made for the ground up.
Yes.
For like a more powerful system than a game that's like upscaled to and patched for a more powerful system. And that's where my disappointment lies. It's not that they can't add some more bells and whistles, make the lighting a little better, improve the textures, get the resolution and frame rate going better. Of course they can do all of that. But like the more ambitious stuff can't be done, you know, like, cause that's the stuff that would push it beyond the capabilities of the Switch on like a base level. And that's what's not going to happen. And that's what's disappointing to me, is that I didn't see anything ambitious in this. To me, it looked like a level pack for Metroid Prime Remastered. remaster.
I mean,
there's nothing that.
fair. They show basically nothing. It just showed you like the visual style they were going for with this, which is it's fine. They showed you can't really judge the game by like the small snippet of gameplay.
You can, because that's what they chose to show.
You can do whatever you want, but they just wanted to show like this is a real game. This is happening now. Like that was the whole point. Like this is a real game.
I don't know why there's a whole movement of people that were like, if it doesn't show up here, then the game probably just doesn't even exist at all. It's like, no, they're keeping it secret. Like, I had no issue with that. A lot of people for some reason did. I don't know why.
That's weird. But I wanted to address like this whole thing, like, oh, this is a cross-gen game. I don't think they're doing cross-gen. I don't think they're doing a bespoke version of this game for next-gen Switch. I think the best you're going to get, and here's why I think I think because the Switch 2 is going to be fully backwards compatible with Switch games. I think it's going to offer enhancements to Switch games when you play them on the system. So you're probably going to be able to run this at like a higher frame rate. Maybe like it could use DSSL, whatever it's called, like technology.
DLSS, I think.
Yeah, DLSS to like upscale it, so you probably get better resolution on the graphics.
Better frame rate, yeah.
Yeah, better frame rate. It's gonna be stuff like that. And
maybe they could add in a little touch of ray tracing or something. Who knows?
I'm sure marketing for the game is going to like probably lean heavily onto that. Like, an improved experience if you play it on Switch 2. Like, they're probably going to lean heavily into that, especially for this game. But there's not going to be any like bespoke.
Especially because this game's not coming out till 2025, and they didn't give a time frame in 2025.
No,
which makes me think it's going to launch probably close to the time of the Switch successor.
But there's not going to be any bespoke version of Switch successor. I think they're just going to sell it. I mean, they're going to sell it on. You can buy this game, and it will work on your new Switch 2, and it'll even run better when you're playing it on there.
Yeah, maybe a patch, something like that. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I'm just very disappointed. Yes, it's Metroid Prime, but like a big part of Metroid Prime was also every time they showed a Metroid Prime, it was like, oh my god, like this is crazy. When they first showed Echoes and they were showing like some of the the Echo stuff in Echoes, it was like, oh wow, that's like crazy the way they're using like the Dark World and sound and stuff. Like it was just kind of mind blowing, like some of the effects they were doing with it. The first Metroid Prime was stunning and it was doing so many completely new things. And the first time they showed it, it was showing all these new things it was doing. Prime 3, like it was showing like the welding and like all the stuff with like the sky level that was like really cool. And all that kind of stuff was like really cool when it showed off with Prime 3. And here they dropped this and there was just nothing ambitious. It feels like a level pack.
I don't
think that's what's going to be. I think there's more to it. I do think there's more to it, but they didn't show that, you know?
I think it looks gorgeous for a Switch game. It's definitely a huge leap over Metroid Prime 3 Echoes. If you go back, look at that, like, obviously. Yeah, but like, I get the disappointment. I think that it was inevitable if they were sticking to Switch, which I thought was the most likely, because this has been in development for 7 years for the current gen Switch hardware. I don't think...
Oh, kind of. Because it stopped development and restarted, and you know they didn't carry over any of those assets from the development. Right. So it's probably been more like 5 years.
Get the full story. Yeah, 5 years. I mean, which is about the average time a game of like this.
Which will be about 6 by the time it comes out, probably.
Yeah. And that's pretty typical time span for like what a game of this scope takes to make these days. So like that's not anything outrageous.
Yeah, but disappointing for me, mind-blowing for you.
Yeah.
But we're gonna move on now past the regular segment, and I wrote down some representation stats, and some of this I already covered, but I wanted to point out these are just some weird observations I made. Retro is represented in 3 games in this show. So that doesn't mean that they made 3 games.
Spiritually represented. Right,
exactly.
Yeah.
But they're tied, there's weird connections to them. So first off, Metroid Prime 4, obviously. Next, Donkey Kong Country Returns, which they made and then is being ported by an outside developer. And then Turok, which they did as Iguana, like spiritually basically the same company, but, you know, before. Then Rare had kind of two spiritual connections, one direct and one kind of more spiritual. And that's Donkey Kong Country Returns, which was, they did the Donkey Kong Country franchise initially, and then Perfect Dark, which was directly developed by them. I don't know who's doing the port. Probably not Rare, probably some other, studio that ported it for Microsoft or Nintendo, I don't know. And then the last one I already mentioned is Hiro Mishima, which it was very strange, like I said, seeing Fairy Tail 2 and going, why is this here? And having that in the back of my head, and then seeing another game where he did the character designs and going like, that's weird. Was it his birthday today? Like, what's going on? Why is he getting so much Nintendo Direct representation? It's just very strange. But I thought those were interesting. But now let's move on to the Japanese Direct. So a lot of this is hard to follow. It wasn't as reported on. The trailers were all in Japanese, so it's hard to tell what's going on. So we're not really going to talk about these. I'm just going to name through them.
Grateful to you for tracking all this down.
Yeah, we're just going to mention these are the games that were announced in the Japanese Direct that were not in the North American Direct. And we're going to rush through these. Some of these I don't even know what they are. I wasn't able to really place them. And some of them are part of franchises that we know, and a few of them we can actually have something to say about, but not many. We're going to start off. Battle Crush is coming in June 27th. I really don't know what that is. Next is Dragon Saikyo Ozukan Battle Coliseum. This looks like kind of a kaiju fighting game from what it looked like.
Yeah, I mean, the name kind of suggests that.
It's coming on July 4th. Minato Machigoro is coming July 5th. I get no idea what that is. Ace Combat 7, Skies Unknown Deluxe Edition, July 11th. That's Ace Combat.
I mean,
we know what that is.
Yeah, we know what the Ace Combat series is.
We got Buto Bird, which is like a weird dog-fighting flying game, but you're controlling birds. It's got kind of like, I guess, maybe you could compare it to something like Ace Combat or like Panzer Dragoon, but like less serious, more like funny, I guess. And that's a shadow drop that came out today, or not today, but the day of the direct. Then Kamatachi no Yoru X3.
Sure.
This is like a visual novel collection or something. It's like an old one that's been updated, but it just looks very strange. It just has a bunch of
you showed me the trailer for that,
figures.
and I was like, what?
Yeah,
it's very obvious this is why this is not coming out in here.
Yeah, I think it's just a visual novel.
Obvious.
Like, I don't think it even has like choices or anything.
Right. Oh, okay, yeah.
Like, you read it. That's it.
Yeah, very obvious why that's not getting localized.
Speaking of obviously why it's not being localized, we have the franchise Powerful Pro Baseball, which always shows up in these Japanese directs. The 2024-2025 version coming July 18th. It's like a super deformed baseball game. Always comes out in Japan every year. Shim, no idea what that is. July 18th.
Zero idea.
Bo, Path of the Teal Lotus, July 18th. No idea. The Star Named Eos. No idea. July 23rd. Ninja Slayer Neo Saitama in Flames. July 24th. No idea. Next one's kind of interesting though. It's called Reynatus, and this is apparently coming to, it's coming to PS4 and PS5, but it's apparently coming to PS4, PS5, and Switch out here. It's going to be localized, but it wasn't in the show for here, but it was.
Nice is localizing this for the North American market. This is not published by Nice in Japan. This is published by, and I posted this earlier, it's by Furyu. A company called Furyu is publishing this in Japan. And I think my best guess for why this has only showed up in the Japanese Direct and not in the North American Direct, even though this is a game that is coming here, is probably because Nice did not pay for a marketing for a trailer spot in the Direct. But Furyu, the Japanese publisher, did.
The only other thing I could think of is that this game had a demo that came out on the Japanese eShop. It did not come out. It was not localized to come out on
That's
the
right,
American eShop.
So that's probably it. Japan got a Shadow Drop demo, and we didn't get anything, and there was no need to, I guess, yeah.
It's just kind of a weird exclusion, though, because this is like a AA, pretty good-looking game, you know?
Right.
It's kind of surprising that this didn't get some highlight, considering some of the stuff that did get highlighted, you know? It's a little weird, but yeah, that game is coming on July 25th. Then we got another reveal in the Japanese one, Eggy Party, which I wrote down as Fall Guys-esque. You said it's straight ripped off Fall Guys, like there's a stage that's exactly the same. I've never played Fall Guys, so I started
the trailer, and the first thing I saw was I saw the obstacles. I was like, wait, is this Fall Guys? Like, did they It's like, no, like, those are not Fall Guys characters, but like,
it's a bunch of chibi characters in egg costumes.
I was like, this is the stage for Fall Guys. This is like all the stuff that's going on in Fall Guys. It's happening. And it looked like a straight, like, not even like a clone, like a straight ripoff. It does differentiate itself, like, towards the middle and into the trailer. Like, there's like some other modes and some other stages, which doesn't look like anything that's in Fall Guys, but like that first stage, the obstacle courses definitely look like they just copy pasted them for Fall Guys.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, that's blatant. It's like, yeah.
Next game we got is One Piece Odyssey Deluxe Edition. This is the kind of thing I would have expected to see also in the North American Direct instead of Fairy Tail 2. Because One Piece is a much bigger franchise than Fairy Tail is.
And that's definitely
you see anime license games in the Nintendo Directs all the time. But it's usually like One Piece or like Naruto or Dragon Ball Z. It's something big like that, you know? Fairy Tail surprised me that it was there, but in the Japanese Direct, One Piece did make an appearance. That's coming on July 25th.
And this is coming to US. It's listed at ESRB rate teen copy on the Bandai Namco store is available for $50 right now.
Yep.
Pre-order. Yep. So like this is not like a Japan only thing. We just didn't see a trailer for it in North American Direct.
We also got a trailer for Legend of Heroes Kuro no Kiseki 2 for Nintendo Switch.
This is the latest in the
Legend of Heroes franchise.
Falcom's Legend of Heroes franchise, yeah.
Yeah, which that series has like a bunch of different franchises under the same franchise umbrella. So there's
it's
Trails in the Sky, Trails of Cold Steel, there's a bunch of them.
Yeah, it started with Dragon Slayer in the 80s on Japanese PCs and like really begat like a bunch of different spin-off series that are running to this day.
Yeah, and these have been coming out on the Switch in the US. So I think this one is coming too. I have no reason to think it's not. They're pretty much all been coming out, so...
Yeah, this one is definitely coming out.
It's kind of surprising it just wasn't at the show. That's coming on July 25th. World of Goo 2. Now, I think the reason this wasn't in the show, and I'm not sure on this, but I think they just hadn't announced this for Japan yet. And I think that's what this was.
This was the announcement for the game coming to Japan.
Yeah, I made the mistake before of saying that World of Goo 2 was coming out like weeks ago.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that the date had changed.
It's coming out in August now, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's coming out in August now. It's coming out August 2nd in Japan. I don't know when the US version's coming out. I don't have that in front of me, but I'm looking forward to World of Goo 2. I don't think they showed anything new. I think this was announcing it was coming to Japan. So they didn't need to do it because they already showed it in the Nintendo Direct. Next up, That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, Tempest Stories, coming out on August 8th. This is another anime licensed one. This is a very, very popular isekai series that I actually do enjoy. I actually watched this anime. I really have no interest in the games, but it's coming on August 8th. Gundam Breaker 4, I think I mentioned this previously, or like maybe we almost mentioned it, but it didn't make the cut for the show. But this is a game where you use Gundams and then you fight other Gundams and you break off pieces of those Gundams, and when you win the fight, you can use those pieces to like build new ones. And the idea is it's kind of based on Gundam model kits, and the trend in Japan of like taking Gundam kits and mixing and matching them and making like your own custom Gundams, which a lot of people do in Japan. And this is kind of like, well, what if you do that, but as a game? So you like use this one Gundam's arm and this other Gundam's like head, you know, and just mix and match until you make your own little creation. And you can do that in this game. And it has the loop of you fight Gundams, you get their parts, you rebuild your Gundam, you fight more Gundams, you get their parts, and it just loops. And that's the gameplay loop. It's kind of cool looking, but I understand why that wouldn't necessarily be in this show. Next up is Kamatsubaki City Ensemble, coming August 29th. No idea. Uma Musume Pretty Derby.
This is like a girls like horse racing simulator. You dress up the horses, I'm guessing.
I guess. I don't know. August
they 30th. Call it Pretty Derby, so like that makes me think this is a horse racing game like aimed at girls.
Yeah, I guess. August 30th. Natsuman 20th Century Summer Vacation. This one actually looked kind of similar. There was a game that was on DS or 3DS, like the eShop, when they started putting downloadable games. There was one that was put on there where you were in a town that had kaiju, and you could like go around the town, but you're like a kid. You're not like involved in the action, and you're just like a kid that's obsessed with kaiju and like the Ultraman type,
Oh, yeah,
stuff.
I know what that is, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what this kind of looks like. I don't really know because I only kind of saw the trailer once and I didn't understand it because it was in Japanese, but it kind of has that like coming of age, small town Japan kind of thing going on for it, with like some bigger stuff happening around you that you're not really involved with, in the same way that game was. So it's a new paid expansion DLC, I guess, for an existing game, and it was Shadow Drop.
Okay.
So that's it for the Japanese exclusives. Next up, we're going to talk about the predictions we made and how bad they were. So I'm going to go through these first. These are the predictions we made last week. Manga Nian from Game Witness, he predicted, we did it in a format. We said, pick a Shadow Drop, pick 3 ports, say how many farming games are going to come to it, if Metroid Prime 4 is coming or not. That is just simple yes, no. And a from out of nowhere wild card guess. His picks were for Shadow Drop, he said Metroid Prime Echoes, no. For ports, he only mentioned 2. He mentioned F-Zero GX and Hi-Fi Rush, neither. For a number of farming games, he guessed 3. There were technically kind of 2. You could kind of make an argument maybe for 1, but I'm going to say 2. Games that showed farming in them. 1 showed gardening instead of farming, but I'll just going to count that. He guessed 3, so he missed it by 1. Metroid Prime 4, yes or no? He said yes. I'm going to say I'm the only person who said no. So I got no points. Everybody got at least 1 point for Metroid Prime 4, but that's pretty much all anybody got, I think.
Being optimistic for Metroid Prime 4 being on Switch worked in my favor.
Yeah, from out of nowhere for Manga Nian, he said Kid Icarus remake or sequel, no go. Shoulder is the one that won. For Shadow Drop, he guessed Metroid Prime 2 Echoes, no. For ports, he said Twilight Princess HD and Wind Waker HD as a pack, Xenoblade Chronicles X, F-Zero GX, none of those. For number of farming games, he guessed 2. He got it.
So I'm guessing you're counting Tales of Shire's farming game?
Yep, that's the only one. Any game that has some kind of farming, I guess it has gardening. You could argue it's only 1, but he said 2.
I'll give it. We'll
give him the point.
We'll give it to him.
Metroid Prime 4, he said yes, so he got 2 points. From out of nowhere, he said new Monolith Soft game. Nope. No Monolith Soft presence at all. None. There were some people expecting maybe Xenosaga would show up, which would be a port made by a different studio of a Monolith Soft game. We didn't get that either. There's no Monolith Soft representation at all, not even Sphere Cube. My guess is I got nothing right because I guessed no on Metroid Prime 4. But I also Shadow Dropped. I guessed Metroid Prime 2 and 3. I said not remasters like the first game, just ports. No, none of that. For ports, I said Kid Icarus Uprising, Metroid Samus Returns, and Xenoblade Chronicles X. Nothing. For a number of farming games, like Manga Nian, I said 3. I was off by 1.
You were way too optimistic about the number of farming games.
I was off by 1.
Yeah.
Metroid Prime 4, yay or nay? I said nay. We got it. To my disappointment. From out of nowhere, I said F-Zero, either new or a GX remaster. And that was another disappointment for me because I somehow convinced myself that this was going to happen because I wanted it so much. I thought I'd manifest it into this world.
I was just
not really, but I really wanted it.
I wasn't really expecting to get the from out of nowhere category correct. I was not aiming for the point there. I was just doing my wishful thinking.
To be honest, I really didn't either, but I wanted it so bad.
Right, yeah.
Once I thought of it, I wanted it so bad.
Right.
Will, you said Shadow Drop, Dr. Mario 99. Nope. No Dr. Mario, no 99 game. You said, for ports, you said Kid Icarus Uprising, Metroid Samus Returns, and a Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD bundle. Nope. Number of farming games, you made the bold choice of saying 0.
Yes, the folly of man.
You were the furthest off of all of us on this one.
The folly of myself to assume that we were safely past the farming game boom. We were not.
The farms are coming for you.
Yes.
The subsidized corn is coming for you. You have no defense. For Metroid Prime 4, like everybody but me, you said yay.
Yes.
And you saw the trailer and also said yay.
Yay. Yay all around.
And for your From Out of Nowhere, like me, you were saying F-Zero. You were specifically saying a new F-Zero. You said F-Zero SX.
Yeah. Nintendo continues to hate me. Like, it's fine.
Yeah. So no points for me. me, 1 point for you, 1 point for Manganian, 2 points for Shoulder. Overall, pretty pathetic run.
Yeah, I think it speaks to our expectations for Direct versus the actual Direct. Our expectation, look at this, like our expectations were a lot lower. Sports. If we said there was only going to be one port and it was going to be Donkey Kong, we'd all be correct.
Well, that wasn't the only port. I mean, ports doesn't necessarily mean from another Nintendo system.
Right, no, there's other ports, yeah.
But yeah, like the only one along the lines of what we were thinking of was Donkey Kong Returns, and none of us guessed that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there is some logic. Like, I see like a lot of like, predicting a Metroid port or Shadow Drop, like some people Metroid Prime 2. Like, you were Metroid Prime 2, like, we were predicting a port of Samus Returns. I thought that's all in anticipation for revealing Metroid Prime 4. That was, like, my logic, but they were like, no, Metroid Zero Mission on GBA. That's how we primed the pump for 4.
Honestly, when the Prime 4 trailer started, I thought it was a sequel to Dread.
Oh, okay.
Or like another 2D Metroid remade.
It was going to be Federation Force 2. You know what's funny is the main villain is Silex. It was like one of the
from Hunters, the DS game.
From Hunters too.
Yeah.
He also appears in Federation Force.
Yep. Both games I think most people just pretend don't exist.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially Federation Forces.
Which is funny, like how they're positioning this character to be so important to the lore, and you gotta go play side games that you don't want to play.
I have to say that Metroid Prime Hunters remains probably one of the best looking games on the DS.
Oh, it's absolutely gorgeous.
And it came out on the DS as a demo before, like when the system launched. Everybody who got a DS got the demo, and that demo is one of the best looking DS games of all time.
Yeah, that demo, that was crazy, and that was not retro. That was Nintendo software technology.
NFC, yep.
Yeah, I couldn't believe the DS was doing a pretty reasonably good looking version of Metroid Prime.
I should say NST, who famously made one of the greatest games ever, Project Hammer.
Yes.
A game that never came out. But yeah, so those were our predictions that we failed pretty miserably on. Let's kind of talk about what you thought of the Direct. What's your rating? Let's say letter grade.
I think this is like one of the best Directs they've had in a while. Letter grade A+. I mean, they showed a brand new Mario RPG, brand new, like, out of nowhere. Brand new 2D Zelda out of nowhere. Metroid Prime looked fantastic. I mean, that's like, those are like big hitters. Like, this is supposed to be the narrative going into this is supposed to be a console on the decline, right? It's supposed to, it's last year. We're just getting scraps now. We're getting cutesy shit like NES, like World Champion Edition, and we're getting ports like Luigi's Mansion 2, and it's going to continue that way until we get a new Switch and we get the big boy games again. And no, that's not the way it's going to go. We actually do have major games still coming out for this system, and this Direct proved that, and I think that completely defied all expectations. I mean, I don't know, like, how that's not an A.
Oh, it isn't for me. Yeah. There's a few caveats that make it not an A for me. Again, like I said, I was profoundly disappointed in Metroid Prime 4, not just what they showed, but that it's not going to be a ground-up Switch successor game. Both, not just that, it's not going to be that, but also what they showed, I was just not impressed by. It didn't do anything for me. So that automatically brought it down. I don't have any nostalgia for the Mario and Luigi games. It looks cool, but it didn't excite me.
I mean, I didn't think those would resonate with you. You don't play handheld games.
It didn't excite me.
I don't know, like, how you feel about Mario RPGs in general, to be honest.
Yeah. Dragon Quest 3, I love the HD 2D stuff, but as I said, Dragon Quest as a franchise is generally pretty boring to me. So I might check it out just out of my love for HD 2D stuff, but...
I mean, if you compare this to, like, the last Direct they did, I think
the last Direct was pretty bad, but, like...
Yeah, it's much better.
I don't just judge best ever next to, like, one of the worst, you know?
I mean, for me, like, you got a brand new Mario, you got a brand new Zelda, you got a brand new Metroid.
Well, you say a brand new Mario, but it's a separate franchise.
I know it's not the main line.
Yeah, there's a big difference between that and, like, if there was an actual, like, 2D or 3D Mario, you know?
Yeah. Still exciting.
Yeah.
Exciting to me.
The redeeming games for me, the ones that interested me, the ones that actually excited me, or had some interest in some way for me were Fantasian, which I'm still not sure how good of a game that is, but it's always looked good, but I know it's not like a gotcha game or something like that, which I really despise. So I know it's not that, but even the games that aren't like that are on mobile are oftentimes shallow just because they know people aren't paying as full attention to playing a game on their phone as they would if they were sitting in front of a TV and playing. So a lot of times the stories aren't as good. You know, they just don't put as much effort into that, you know? They just focus more on like a fun battle system that's, you know, quick and easy and like a cool look or something. So I don't know what that game's gonna be on. So I'm like cautiously optimistic. I'm looking forward to it, but I'm still on the fence on whether or not I'm actually gonna go for it. Mio is a game that when I first saw it, I thought it looked great. And every time I've watched the Direct since then, because I've watched this Direct like a bunch of times now, every time I've seen it since the first time, I've liked it more. It went from being like, oh, this is really cool, but I probably won't get it, to I pretty much might get this. Like I'm right on the edge of wanting to get this. So that was a high spot for me. And then the other high spot for me, of course, is Zelda. I think that game looks amazing. That's the one game that I'm for sure buying. That's like the one must buy from everything that we're showing here that I'm like, yes, day one, I'm getting. Mm-hmm. To be honest, I'm probably going to get Prime 4 day one. I'm sure we're going to see more of it and it's going to look better, but what they showed didn't impress me. So it didn't do anything for my rankings for this Direct. So I would say for me, this was a C.
But I mean, it's
one must-have game, and two others that are kind of interesting. And
I mean, it's fair. It's fair because like it a lot of it does have to do with like your personal excitement for the games that are announced or shown, and I just have like a lot more excitement for these games than you do, and that's fine.
Yeah, that's just the way the cookie crumbles.
I mean, and for me, like they finally announced the Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection, so they got all the Marvel vs. Capcom games on the Switch. That's a huge deal for me too. So that also.
A lot of the stuff that people really went crazy over in this Direct, for me, it was more like, good for you.
Yeah.
You know? Like they showed Luigi, no, not that. Like they showed, like, for instance, Donkey Kong Country Returns HD. I don't care about that game. I'm never gonna play it. I'm not interested. But I saw it and I know some people are really into that. So I was like, good for you.
Your disinterest in the, Donkey Kong Country, series continues to perplex me, but it's fine. It's fine. I'm definitely gonna play it, but I mean, if that was the Direct, it would definitely be a C or a B for me. It would be C for me because it's like, alright, that's cool. I'm gonna buy that, I'm gonna play it, I'm gonna have a lot of fun with it, but I mean, it doesn't necessarily excite me.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing, Mario and Luigi. Like, again, maybe I'll try that game, maybe not, but I know a lot of people that are obsessed with that franchise, and so my reaction to it was, good for them.
I would recommend checking it out and playing it, especially since this is the first game in the series you're going to be able to play on the TV with a Pro Controller. So I mean,
I think some of them are on the Nintendo Switch Online, aren't they?
No,
I think isn't
maybe
Superstar Saga in the first one?
Maybe Superstar Saga is, yeah. So you might be able to play that. I'd say definitely fire that up, play because it's a great game.
And Perfect Dark, I know people have been waiting to get that on Switch for ages. Again, does nothing for me.
Yeah, I mean that's fine. I'm not the biggest fan of Perfect Dark either.
Yeah, the one Switch Online game here that I might actually play is Zero Mission.
I mean, yeah, I would 100.
I love Metroid, so it's like I might play Zero Mission.
Yeah, oh no, play Zero Mission. Do it. Did you play Fusion on Switch Online?
Yeah, and I played Fusion on portable too.
Okay, so you did.
Yeah, that was around when I started not liking portable. Not because of that game.
Long enough to play it.
Yeah, I did struggle through to play Fusion.
Just to play Fusion. Yeah, play Zero Mission. Zero Mission is 100% excellent. Definitely fire that up. Play that and play Superstar Saga on Switch Online for sure. Those are my recommendations.
Yeah, but that's, so yeah, it just wasn't as much of a great Direct for me. Honestly, the predictions I made, even though they were mostly just ports and stuff, I would have rated my predicted Direct. I would have rated a B minus, maybe C plus, just a little bit above.
My prediction, I would have been obviously jumping on my chair for F-Zero.
Oh yeah, if F-Zero was new and not a port of GX, then yeah, then it would have been an A for me, Direct. Directs. Just
I don't
on
know.
that
If F-Zero was there, it would. With Metroid Prime and F-Zero there, it would have been an A. But, like, the rest of it, like I predicted, I was definitely predicting down, like, a B for a Direct.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, I wasn't predicting an A-plus Direct, like what I think we got. So, like, we definitely got, like, a much better Direct than I was anticipating, in my opinion.
Yeah, but that is it for our show this week. Next week, we are going to be talking about Monkey Man, which last week I said I thought it was on Max. It's on Peacock, I believe. So check that out. Monkey Man, that's what we're going to be talking about next week. The week after that, just to get ahead of it, we're going to be talking about both House of the Dragon and The Boys, and we're going to be covering those week to week, but we're going to be doing one where we're kind of catching up to everything that's been out to that point. Because
So
there's already 3 episodes of The Boys out. There's already 1 episode of House of the Dragon out.
There have been 3 episodes of House of the Dragon and 5 of The Boys by the time we do this podcast, right?
Think
because we did the 3 episodes.
Yeah, maybe 3. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's another episode of Boys happening this week, so that'd be 4. And then House of the Dragon comes back Sunday. That's 2 episodes of that we're doing Monkey Man. Then there's like another episode of The Boys, and then there's another episode of House of the Dragon, and we're doing the podcast.
Yeah, so 3 episodes of House of the Dragon and 5 episodes of The Boys. Yeah. That'll be in 2 weeks. That's what we're going to be covering. And then after that, it's going to be, we're going to cover both of those shows week to week, like each new episode as they come out, together. So we'll be talking about both The Boys and House of the Dragon.
Sounds good to me.
So that's going to be the pattern of releases moving forward until those shows are complete. But yeah, thank you everybody for listening. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Tyson Gifford. You can follow Will. He is at FoxOHero. You can check out our website, thetotalscreen.com. If you go to our website and open up a container story for any of our podcast episodes, scroll down to the bottom paragraph. You'll find all of our relevant links to our RSS feed, our SoundCloud page, all of that stuff. It's all there. So check that out. You can also subscribe to this podcast through your favorite podcast client of choice, like Apple Podcast or Pocket Cast. And the entire backlog of our podcast is available on our YouTube channel, along with additional content, including our old podcast, which went 300 episodes, and a bunch of like video features and things we did before we kind of just started doing nothing but the podcast. But all of that's going to be available on our YouTube channel to check out. So thank you everybody for listening. Good night.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the OnScreen podcast, the official podcast of The Total Screen. Visit our website at thetotalscreen.com. This podcast can be found on any major podcast client, including Pocket Cast and Apple Podcast. The entire backlog of this podcast and other content can be found on our YouTube channel.